Hey guys, Tammy here. And in this video, I want to ask you, is your child misbehaving? I hear this a lot from parents when we are going through children transitioning between homes. Very frequently, they're misbehaving. Why? What causes this? Now, let me just quickly remind you, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please click like and subscribe to the channel so you get notified as new videos are released. Now, the misbehaving issue I find a lot of times is about the child trying to emotionally process, right? Young children don't have the ability to self-regulate yet. They haven't learned that. That's something that we learn and develop skills around as we go through life. And so a young child in particular, I find under 10, their frustration or their anger or their sadness or whatever can manifest in the form of misbehavior. The other time that we see kids misbehave is when the parents have conflict. I had a parent recently who shared that there had kind of been this exchange with the other co-parent at the drop-off point. And this parent said to me, hey, look, it's a very young child. They were in the car. They couldn't see us. I had eyes on the vehicle just a few feet away, but the child couldn't see us from the vehicle and didn't know that this was happening. The interesting thing about that is the child might not have known in the moment that it wasn't happening. And a lot of times they do because they can hear things. They can hear the conversation, or they can hear things outside of the vehicle, even if they're inside. But even if they don't hear that, when one of the parents gets in the car and they're upset and their emotions are so elevated from this exchange, do you think the child feels that? Well, let me ask you, when you're around someone that's upset, even if you weren't involved in the argument, you weren't involved in whatever happened with them, but you're just around someone who is upset or stressed out about something, do you feel it? I'm guessing you're saying you do. I know that I have had this experience with Thomas. I've had this experience where he's preparing for a big case. He's got trial coming up. And believe it or not, attorneys get nervous. Even after 30 years of practice, they still get nervous, especially if they feel a huge responsibility to their clients the way Thomas did. And so he would get very nervous and upset and worked up a lot of times when he was trying to prepare for trial. Am I making the right arguments? Am I looking at the right things? What if this is wrong? What if the judge doesn't like this argument? What if they catch my client in a lie about this issue? What if, all these different things would ruminate in his head? And he wasn't talking to me out loud about it. Usually for him, it manifested in the form of getting up and pacing, or going for a walk around our block, or doing some type of activity like that. But that stress still was palpable by me because our desks sit face to face in our home office. We sit right face to face. So even now, I'm in my home office, I'm working, I'm looking at Thomas's empty chair. So when you're in that close proximity and you're that connected to another person, of course you're going to feel it. So it shouldn't be any shock to us that we can't convince our kids that everything's fine when we're upset. So if you have this exchange, if you have this custody exchange, this visitation exchange, and you have this altercation, or you have words, or you have conflict, even if the child is out of earshot, doesn't see it, doesn't witness it, then you get into the car with the child and you're bringing that negative energy. Guess what? The child's going to feel that, and then they're going to get upset. And they might not get upset in the form of, I'm upset because you seem upset and I'm, figuring that out. And I'm, that's what's happening in practicality, but a young child isn't going to know that. A young child isn't going to say, well, I suddenly feel upset because you're upset. They can't verbalize that if they're very young. And so they'll get upset over something else. I can't find this toy. I don't want to be in this car seat. I want my snack. Whatever they're fussing about and starting to have a big fit about, that negative emotion can be fed by your state in that very moment. I don't know about you guys, but I've had this experience with animals too, right? Animals feed off this for us. Animals can tell very well when you're upset. That's why if you're crying or doing whatever, if you had that experience where your little dog comes up into your lap and, curls up or tries to lick your face or whatever, they're trying to comfort you because they know you're upset. So your child's trying to do the same thing. They're trying to cope with whatever the upsettedness is, but the way they cope with it is through it manifesting in misbehaving. And so they'll throw a tantrum or throw a fit over something. What do you do? What do you do in that instance when you know that that child's issue is coming from your current state? If it's coming from the exchanges, that's a little different. If it's coming from the exchanges, I try to get the child outside, get some physical activity, do something to help that child emotionally regulate because they don't know how. They haven't learned that. So you have to teach them how to do that through their physicality. I know with both of my boys, they both played basketball through high school and everything. And that was something that we learned, that we taught them going to the gym, practicing your ball, doing things like that to get some physical interaction that will help decrease anxiety, stress, all those things. So that will help the child self-regulate when it's coming from their own emotions. But when it's coming from you or the other parent, because you've had this incident or this altercation, that takes on a different context. The first thing that I would tell you is try to avoid that. Try to avoid even having that. I always tell people at exchanges, don't have a conversation about anything else. Don't get out and think you can interact and everything's fine. Because especially if you're dealing with a high conflict person like a narcissist or a borderline, guess what? That's unpredictable. And you don't know at what moment that shoe is going to drop and there's suddenly going to be a conflict. And so we kind of get lulled into complacency because everything's been going okay, right? Been fine. So we're doing good right now. So I'm going to get out and have this interaction. The problem is that's often what leads to then conflict. And so then you put yourself in this situation where the child is exposed to your emotions, and it could have been prevented in the first instance by just maybe you stay in the car. If your child's 8, 9, 10 years old and they can walk to the other parent's car at the exchange, or somebody's picking them up curbside, different situations like that where you can eliminate the interaction, then that's the perfect way to do it, because then you're completely eliminating the potential for this conflict. And this is why we see courts order things like curbside exchanges for parents and that type of thing, because the court is trying to remove every possibility of conflict to the extent that they possibly can. If the worst has happened and this interaction has happened and you're in this negative state, then the worst thing that you can do is now ruminate about it in your head, analyze it, look at it from every angle, and think about it all the way home, right? You're driving home, you picked up your kid, and you're thinking about it all the way home. What's happening? You're continuing to perpetuate that emotional energy in your body, and your child in the back seat, in their car seat, is continuing to pick up on it. What do? You have to put it on a shelf. And ladies, I'm talking to you. We have a harder time with this, right? Guys compartmentalize a little bit easier. I think it's just the way that God made us. And so we have to be very intentional. And I'm not saying all guys. My husband was a very emotional guy and kind of wore his heart on his sleeve. And so this is a particular aspect that he personally struggled with. So I know that's not true of all men, but in general, women struggle with this issue more. But you have to want what's best for your child more than you want to indulge in your own negative emotions. Did you hear what I said? I'm going to say it again. You have to want what's best for your child more than you want to indulge in your own negative emotions. And so you have to take that and put it up on a shelf. And you can take it down later, when you're in your room at night before bed, you can journal about it. You can meditate. You can ruminate about it then and keep yourself up till 2 a.m. if that's what you want to do. But don't deal with it right now when you've got that child in your presence. When that child is in your presence, your job is to change your state. It's different for all of us. One of the best things I think you can do, and I think this is pretty universal for most of us, put on some kind of music. Put on something you love. If you have a lot of faith-based like me, sometimes I like putting on worship music because, that makes me feel good. It uplifts me, and you can't think a negative and a positive thought at the same time, right? If you're thinking about the positive lyrics of that song, you're not going to be able to hold on to that negative thought about what just happened. Now, I would recommend that you not pick a song that's, dark and dungeon and negative. I probably wouldn't pick that kind of song, but pick something that's going to uplift you, or get on the phone with somebody positive that's going to encourage you and give you that uplifting. If you have a coach, call them. Don't call your parent or your sister or your best friend or your whoever and rediscuss what just happened and how horrible it was and how negative it was and keep perpetuating that, because then you're having that incident replayed in front of the child verbally, and you're also replaying your negative energy about it. So you've got to get out of your own head and get into a positive state. And like I said, I think music is one of the great universal ways to do that. Sometimes I'll put on personal development. I'll listen to a book, something positive, whatever it is for you that's going to uplift you and help you remove yourself from that negative emotion. So if your child is misbehaving, look at yourself first and see if you might be contributing to that misbehavior on some level without recognizing it. Okay. If you would like to learn more about my coaching programs, please go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on there that you can use to book a free strategy session with me. I'd love to talk to you and see if I might be able to help you more in your situation. See you guys next time.